You know, they seemed to be always dirty, but that is because they were old. And then we saw it had a long garden, which we wanted. It was only a field then, but we wanted a big garden. In those days, we thought it was modern. We thought we were very modern in buying a house, too, because, I mean, we were earning very little money, and it was a big undertaking to us in those days. But my husband had the idea, no, start where you want to finish.
The majority of semi-detached houses were designed by the builders, but across the road from Mrs. McAvoy, in the drive, there's a good pair of architect-designed houses. To most people's eyes, these tasteful L-shaped semis look much too like the working-class cottage estates built by councils. So the builders of the more expensive semis in the drive kept to the much simpler, squarer, universal plan, but then decked it out with expensive sales features designed to show that one had moved from the big city into rural surroundings. It's a catalogue of super rusticity. The oriel windows and timber framing to the bedrooms, the big rough-cast bow window to the lounge, and the recessed porch with its keyhole-shaped brick arch, and its panelled door with an emphatic knocker and letterbox. These country-style knockers are repeated on the garage, and with the big iron hinges make it the hereditary successor to the stable. The wooden pegs, which look as though they hold the timbering in place, are as fake as the timbering itself. It's all just decoration. And here across the road we have something completely different, a pair of dramatically streamlined modern semis, where it's quite hard at first sight to see that underneath there's exactly the same universal plan. Houses like this were smart and continental, but not so popular with the public. The language comes from German and French modern architecture, with metal windows whizzing round corners, rough-cast plaster over brick designed to make it look like concrete, and a Riviera-style sunroof on top. Sun worship is a very important sign of modernity. Houses often have sun-ray patterns in windows and in gables. Most houses struck some sort of compromise between the ancient and modern, and historians can have a lot of fun deciding where all the ideas come from. Here, for example, we have a mixture of 1910-style Neo-Georgian with shutters, 1920s-style white-walled hacienda, 1930s-style modernistic triangular window, and all combined with a most eccentric revival of traditional East Anglian pargeting, that's decorated plasterwork. This traditional hipped roof provides a covering for concrete-style walls with streamlined windows. And the stepped brickwork round the door is an idea from German expressionism of the 20s. So what we have here is not so much architecture in the traditional sense as a consumer product with styling. There was altogether less choice in the world of mass production of the Stevens brothers. Here in Oakhampton Crescent, big booming bay windows, rough cast and hung with tiles, spread the grand scale of the Edwardian country house extremely thinly along an arterial road of cheap repetitive semis. The essence here was beefed up conformity, absolute similarity, neighbour to neighbour, with endlessly individual bay windows, glaring like car radiators to proclaim the fact that everyone had made the best buy. So here, individualism certainly had its limits. Some of the smaller builders tried a lot harder to provide special features for the punter. In Belmont Road, a local builder rejoicing in the wonderfully appropriate name of Wedlock set out to emphasize the roofs of his houses with oversailing eaves on hugely overscaled brackets of stepped-out brickwork. The symbolism of roofs was always very strong, the image of secure shelter. Next door to the Wedlock estate, Feeks and Richards laid out the cheapest of straight streets, not a romantic curve to be seen, but superimposed on them a frenetic individuality, with the two-story bay window abandoned in favour of masses of little oriel windows. They're a tiny suburban echo of India's princely palaces. Other Feeks houses on the same estate have these jagged crow-stepped windows, giving echoes of the Aztec and the Mayan, not a plain man's guide to Hollywood. But beneath all these fantasies, there was the basic body of the universal plan, with the small family living in self-contained isolation. It's hard to remember that the men and women who moved to these comfortable suburbs were pioneers, living in a new world of unmade roads and half-built houses. At the time, the move brought very real compensations, but there were also losses. In opting for a healthy life for their children, the worlds of men and women became more separate. Men went off to work, leaving women behind to build entirely new lives, at first without shops or buses or sports fields. Even now that the individual gardens have blossomed, the semi remains a standardized formula built for profit, even though, given the alternatives, it has become the aspiration of many. For those already in the suburbs, the semi has become the 20th century vernacular house, infinitely adaptable and lovingly customized by its occupants. When we build a little home